you move into Manhattan. You go into New York City and you sell something. And that's what I did. And for several years I sold ladies' handbags and accessories. And then, of course, the great bull market of 1982-83 came about. And all the young men in Manhattan rushed down to Wall Street. And to give you a depiction from my eyes, you'd go to nightclubs and you'd have to talk your way in. Well, the Wall Street guys were always in. They were always sitting at the VIP tables. They always had the hottest looking women with them. They drove the nicest cars. They'd whip out credit cards and pay $1,000 bills like it was, you know, $2 lotto ticket. And I looked at them and I wanted what they had. Now, mind you, I was essentially drunk or high or under the influence pretty much every day. And when I wasn't, I was extremely abrasive, because that's just the way it is when you have a drinking and drug problem. I don't know if anybody out there can relate to it. You know, it's possible I might be the only young man that had a drinking and drug problem. I know that for some of you it might be hard to relate. Now, I'm just kidding, of course, because as we know, it is a disease today, and it is afflicting tens of millions of Americans. And it's something that we're going to get to down the road in the latest show. I promise you we're going to get to that. I give you my word. When I was 26 years old, I made my way down to Wall Street. I immediately found a home. I was a guy that could work hard, play hard. I never ran out of energy. Anything that involved repetition, I was great at. So you give me a phone and tell me to make 100 phone calls, no problem. 200 phone calls, even better. 300 phone calls. You see, when an addict is consumed with repetition, it feels good. He moves to a comfortable place. So for me, 300 calls a day, let's do it. Let's get it on, baby. You know, the problem was when I stopped calling. And then I had to feel something. That was the problem. So we essentially partied and we worked and we played. And it was, we were like rock stars. Many of us made a lot more money than rock stars. And we showed up in our suits, many of us in three-piece suits. And we wore French cuffs and fancy shoes. And we were living the life. And this was New York City in the early and mid-'80s. And wow, wow, wow. And they say all good things must come to an end. And it certainly did for Ross Mandell. In 1987, the markets crashed. And I started to crash personally. I was losing my appetite for the social nature of partying. I still needed the drugs and the alcohol. But I just didn't want to be around a lot of people. And so what started as a big glamorous journey started to become a narrow, smaller world. And eventually, you might have heard people say this, when I was drinking alone, when I was partying alone, when I would use in the morning, I knew I had a problem. I knew I was in trouble. It's a very common feeling amongst the sick and the afflicted. And it all came down to a crashing end when I was 33 years old. The end of 1990, I admitted myself into a 28-day program where I got sober. I didn't intend to get sober. It didn't even occur to me that anybody could be sober. But I certainly knew I needed to go somewhere where I could chill out. Or I could be safe, and where they didn't have an open bar. And I couldn't cop. And so I went to this facility. I ended up staying 28 days and re-entered Manhattan life, which for me was, you know, the Upper East Side of Manhattan, which was Wall Street, the stock market, and all kinds of craziness. The difference was I now was clean. And when you're clean, you feel everything. You hear everything. You're part of the world. And if you're not used to that, Wow. It's crazy. Let me just tell you. I promise you. You know, the first night back in Manhattan, I was on East 63rd Street, and I was like this. Ambulances and people screaming and horns blazing and police cars. I was like, what the hell? It's like I had never spent a night in Manhattan. And, you know, to some extent, there's truth in that statement, because I had never been present for a night in Manhattan where I wasn't drunk or stoned or coming off of or on my way to. And my God, you know, heading down to Wall Street, you know, as a sober guy, wow, was that an eye-opening experience. And I just want to say that, you know, as we get to know each other, we're going to share more about this. We're going to share about alcoholism and drug addiction, my feelings about God, your feelings about God. It's a very big subject today. Some people don't believe in God at all. Some people are just angry at him. Some people think that, you know, it's bullshit. We can explore that together. We're going to get to know each other on every level. I give you my word. We're going to talk about Wall Street. I'm going to share with you insights and stories, literally the truth about what it's like to spend 25 years as a young man on Wall Street in the stock market business during this entire thing that the world calls the bull market. There was an article that came out at one point which likened me to Gordon Gekko. They said Gekko comes to London in the form of investment banker Ross Mandell. Now, I want you to know that I have a website, www.rossmandell.com. That's 2 S's and 2 L's. And I am taking emails directly from you. You send it to Ross at rossmandell.com. It makes sense, huh? And I guarantee you that I will personally answer each and every one of your emails. And I don't want to just hear the good stuff. I want you to send me the bad stuff. I like to see the troubling stuff. I want to hear what's really on your mind. If you think I'm a scumbag, please tell me. Okay? If you think I'm a fighter and a good guy, I'd love to hear that too. And the one thing I can say to you is I promise you, you're going to get me every day. You're going to get me unfiltered, uncensored, uncut. And I'm an in-your-face type of guy, and I'm going to show you that over the next few months. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.